I decided to read from an older book of mine. It was my second book of poems, and it was the very first book that I did with Cinco Puntos Press, and it's called Dark and Perfect Angels. And I want to read these two poems, actually in honor of my friend Bobby Bird, who once told me that that's the book of poems of mine they always went back to. Um, and I thought that was interesting, and I was glad because in some ways, it's a book of poems there's sometimes you write a book of poems, you write poetry, and your first book of poems, you're just trying to, get a book together, and your second book of poems, and it's my second book of poems, and I felt that that writing this book of poems, I actually became a poet, and so I'm going to read you two poems. One of them is entitled, and this poem is actually about the need for community, and that the thing I am me, just outside of being in community with other people makes no sense at all. And it's taken from a line from Pablo Neruda poem entitled No sabe el río que se llama río. And it's about me coming back home to El Paso because the river represents El Paso to me. River, I've returned. This is where I learned to love your waters, memorize the words drowning, death, and life. This is where I learned that I was flesh, fast and hard, swim fast and hard. The race is for the swift. River, I remember summer afternoons. Those days were hot and you were cool and I was softer then. Those summer waters gone now to the Gulf, farther, farther, they have flowed toward greater waters, become a part of oceans vaster than the deserts of the earth. Waters flow into waters. My flesh began as water, grown hard as bone. I am individual. In my tongue, that word is harsh and holy. And yet the peoples of the earth call, come. I want to flow into others, into bodies. There are no hearts without them. Into that child who is touching a leaf for the first time in awe of the green. Into the woman who fears the man she loves. I want to know her hunger. I want to flow into that dying man who suffered years of hate because he would not walk the path of other men. That tired, hated man who daily wakes to offer silent thanks for the breath he steals each morning from the dirty, stingy air. Flow, flow into the scared and breathless man who runs across the desert, runs across the border, runs across the freeway, running, running. Flow into his callous hands. Know and be his work. Know and be his hands. I have spent my life shouting out my name. I have spelled it out one letter at a time, and then stared hard at what I was until I fell exhausted. I am tired of my name. I am cooked from this yoke, from the heavy borders of I am. We divide time into years. We divide years into seasons. We have different names for every river, a different name for every ocean on the earth. But the river does not know that we have named it river. It does not know that it is separate from the waters that call come. Come. The river has flowed 1,000 years. It is spring, and the river is spilling with the newness of winter's melted snow, each season flowing into each season. River, I have been gone a long time. I am returning to your waters. River, I've come back. River, I'm afraid. Carry me like water. I haven't read that poem in years.
Oh, it's great.
And I wrote it almost as if, you write a poem and then you realize that you wrote. And I wrote, wanting to belong to a place and a people and a river, and not just be an individual, just I want to be a part. And I think that's just a good time to be a part of community, of the people you love, and the city that you love, and poetry that you love. And every time you read a poem, you are at one with every poet who has ever lived or died. That makes me feel incredible, because it's a part of something bigger than me. And I'll read you this last poem. It's entitled Meditation Summer. A leaf floats down, bright yellow sliver of tired tree. The branch that once embraced at last lets go of what it birthed in spring. The leaf lands weightless on the still green grass. There was no greatness this summer, caught in work, a squirming fish on a hook to stay alive and fight. And that's all there was. Every June I tell myself, this summer will be a summer, a real summer, like summers used to be. Playing with friends, learning to kiss, swimming in ditches, dancing on streets, listening to afternoon rains, being a watcher of skies. I knew about clouds, about winds that watch the earth. I knew songs by heart and used to write them down, sing them to myself, and then to others. I spent the summer listening to the radio and the rain. It was music, everywhere music. I ceased to give thanks, no longer attend the sacrifice of the Mass, have lost the power to pray. I've forgotten the word today. Look, the tree lets go another leaf. October's here warm, but it is October, and the tree knows it slowly lets go. It's summer. There is no sadness for the tree. It has lived its summer in joy. We'll spend the winter in grief. Spring will bring leaves and alleluias. This winter, I am going to grieve. I am going to wake to every hurt I've ever known, every loss every loss I've left unturned, and place seeds in the cold fields beneath those heavy stones. I let go all my losses before knowing what they were and why they were. I let them go before I ever loved them. I'm going to spend the season paying them my respects. I'm going to make myself a robe and live in mourning. I will wipe my tears with the burned ashes of the garbs I wore as a priest. I am dust. I will beat my breast, song to song to song to, like a drum, and know its music. Song to song to song to, I am dust. I will listen to my heart as it breaks, kneel down and wail like a wolf forced to chew off his leg to force himself from the trap, and to dust I must return. In the spring, I'm going to put away my robes of mourning and make myself a white shirt. It's then time I learn to sew and let the woman in me breathe, live. After the season of hunger and death, I'm going to make a pilgrimage to the tomb, roll back the stone, and race back home, full of all the emptiness I find there. I will kill the fatted calf and gather those I've loved from the highways and byways I've walked. I will take them by their warm hands, bathe them and clothe them, and ask them to tell me of their labors, of their lives, of the difficult clays that brought them forth. Their speech will pound out a new road. I will listen and know why they were born. I will listen to the sweetness of their words. I will put them in a cup and drink them down. A tree in summer drinks the rain. I will to be that tree.
That means Saenz. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome, Bobby Bird. It's a real pleasure.
That was
Love to everybody. Love.
Yeah.